Ushuaia, which is where your adventure begins by ship to see the penguins and the ice, the beautiful ice in Antarctica. So thank you, Anoop. And I want to also thank Rachel. I'm going to say something first and then ask Steve to play a little welcome from Rachel. She's the representative from the Mather at Tyson's Corner, which is a wonderful new place to stay, as we say, in between your travels. It's a beautiful place. It's being constructed. In fact, Eileen and I are going to do our October, probably our October travel party right from the Mather. We look forward to that. We love it there. She is the community relations chairman, and that's Rachel McLean. So you have a greeting from Rachel, Steve?
Yep, let me just bear with me here real quick. I'm hoping, hold on.
We had it just a minute ago, yeah.
No, I did, yeah, hold on, guys. This is just the normal technical difficulties of a digital meeting here. Okay, hold on. All right, geez, I'm not usually the one that is, I'm at a loss of words here because I can't get, I've got her video up. Okay, hold on. Okay, now I need to share my screen. This is bizarre, it disappears. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I need to upload this to a different platform, and we're going to share. We'll take a little break at some point, and then we'll share Rachel's video. It'll be like a commercial break, and then we'll share it then.
Yeah, and she wants to invite everyone to pay a visit. If you go online at themather.com, you'll see some special open houses they're having, and I think you'll be as excited about it as we are. Okay.
Yeah, just start your presentation, and then we'll, when you feel like sort of taking a breather, then I'll have it all fixed up by then, and then we'll do it at that point.
That'll be fine. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. I think it says share screen. All right, here we go. All right, we're going to Italy, and where in Italy are we going? Where is Tuscany, and why is it? Why is it's such a popular place? Okay, this is the boot, and you can see Milan is way up at the top. We come down to Firenze, to Florence. Why am I pointing to that? That's the biggest city in Tuscany, and yet it's a very small town, small city. And so we're going to be touring all the wonderful hill towns of Tuscany. But just to put you in perspective, here's Rome, and here's Naples. We had some Napoli pizza tonight from Puccin, I can't remember the name of it, new Neapolitan pizza restaurant in Reston. So we're going to be in Florence, back here in Firenze, because Florence is actually the center of Italian Renaissance art. And it's a mecca for the history and the art and history of the Renaissance. Florence was long ruled by the Medici family in 1400s, the 1500s, the 1600s. Firenze actually sheltered this powerful Medici family and inspired artists like, who's the most famous one? Michelangelo and Brunelleschi. Brunelleschi actually designed the Duomo, and we're going right there in just a minute. All right, it's about 150 miles from Florence to Milan and to Rome. So you're in between. All right, now we go. Oh, I'm going to pass into the Duomo. When we went to Italy last time, we stayed about a block and a half from the Duomo. The Duomo is here. I'm showing it to you because you can actually climb up to the top where these people are, at the dome and see a magnificent view of Florence and the hills and that stretch out from there. The Duomo is the episcopal seat of the Archdiocese of Florence. These are the Gilberti doors, and that you can see at the base of the Brunelleschi Dome. The Gates of Paradise is the main gate of the Baptistry of Florence, or the Battistero di San Giovanni, located in front of the Cathedral of Maria del Fiore. They're 17-foot tall, 3-ton bronze doors. What's interesting about and why they became an icon of the Renaissance, one of the most famous works of art in the world. So during the Renaissance, bronze was more costly, far more costly than marble. And it posed a significant technical difficulty in an age before industrial casting. So Gilberti created the Gates of Paradise using a technique called lost wax casting. He used a bronze alloy, and it was very receptive to gilding. So he mixed gold dust with mercury, and that created the patina on the doors. We love the Uffizi Gallery. Uffizi Gallery, you can see Botticelli's Birth of Venus, or La Primavera. You can see Da Vinci's The Annunciation. These look a little familiar to you from your art history class. Sandro Botticelli's other great work done for the Medici family is The Birth of Venus. The theme of The Birth of Venus was taken from the writings of the ancient poet Homer. Now, this is not the artwork in the museum. What this was a little painting hanging on the wall of our little apartment across from the Duomo in Florence. So there's a tradition, where is she again? There's a tradition that after Venus was born, she rode on a seashell and sea foam to the island of Cythera. Okay, right out on the outskirts of Florence is the wonderful rose garden, Giardino de Rose. And then we have to go to the Pitti Palace. The Pitti family was equal to the Medicis, but they just turned out not to be quite as good business people as the Medicis were, but they were equal to them in pride and ambition when they built their magnificent palace beginning back in 1457. The Pitti fortunes were actually dwindled maybe into bankruptcy as thought, and the Medici acquired it, acquired their fortunes and acquired the riches. I'm gonna move my computer here a little bit. Okay. The Medici family completely renovated and enlarged the palace, decorating the apartment with paintings from the Galleria Palatina. They brought in Rubens and Titian and Raphael. Oh, we did stop and eat. Oh. In fact, that gave me an opportunity. Oh, that looks just like our pizza from the Neapolitan pizza. Even though Naples is not in Tuscany, we had that kind of pizza tonight. The gambero rosso is something I want you to know about if you're planning to go to Italy, and you might have discovered it, but we carried around a gambero rosso guidebook, but you can also get a monthly subscription to it. And it lists the most extravagant, fantastic restaurants in Italy, but it also lists the most fantastic holes in the wall where anyone could afford to eat there. And the food is all superb. It's like the Michelin guide, but we really enjoyed making our way through Tuscany with the gambero rosso. You have to take a bit of a hike to get to the Galleria where David is. And as I like to say, when I saw David, I had the same feeling when I had when we went to India and saw the Taj Mahal. I'd seen pictures of it. I thought it was pretty, but when you get there and see it, it is so huge and so magnificent, such a work of art that you just have to stand there for a long time and take it all in and see all the sinews that he managed to carve in marble. It's just unbelievable. So this is the most recognizable work, of course, of the Renaissance sculpture. This statue is 12,000 pounds and carved, as you know, from a single block of white marble. It's 17 feet tall. So you must go to the Galleria dell'Accademia di Firenze. All right, so we're going to walk. There's the other couple that Eileen and I went with, actually. We're going to walk across the Arno River and across the Ponte Vecchio, the very famous Ponte Vecchio, where you can do a lot of shopping. There are, and Eileen, did you bring your?
I didn't bring my gloves,
Oh.
but I will talk forever about this wonderful little glove shop that is at the other end of the bridge. It's about a half block down. You make a right and then a left. And the window is full of gloves of every color, every design, all in gorgeous leather. And it's quite stunning. One has to buy some gloves.
So there we are at the wonderful bridge. Oh, here's some more shopping. Of course, you can shop for gold, and you can shop for leather. There's some leather shoes. All right. And our last night before we left for the hill towns was walking, enjoying the street entertainers in the city. Here's one entertainer reaching out to a lady passing by. So Joe Vanella, my friend here, who's sitting behind me, and I will turn you over to Eileen, who's going to we're going to head for the hills with her.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pat. So you all know that that wonderful phrase, la dolce vita, which means the sweet life. And this picture captures that sweet life. This is iconic Tuscany before you. I've been to Italy many times, so the stories I will tell come from various times that I was there. One time, it was after, I guess all of us go traveling after the kids are grown. So it was just after 2001, and anxiety fills the globe. So we were flying into Pisa. We'd flown from Washington to Munich and then hopped over to Pisa. And we came into the airport, and of course, the US airports were just full of guards and everything. And instead, in Pisa's airport, the guards were represented by 2 German shepherds, which made me laugh and made me think of La Dolce Vita. They're very carefree over there. So anyway, wanted to quickly show you another vision of Tuscany. Sorry, hold on. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this.
Talking about travel tales, when we were on our way to Italy, the British Airways misplaced Dave's luggage and he didn't get it back till we were on our flight home.
One of those times, yeah.
And I'm
So here's Tuscany. It represents 10 different districts. And the Pisa that we're going to be starting off with is in the northwest corner here. So after we'd gotten to the airport and through, we did the town. The thing we wanted to see, of course, was the Leaning Tower, which is next to its old cathedral. The Leaning Tower, however, was charging $40 a person to go up and check the view at the top. So we just decided to look at land from the bottom, and then we headed over to one of my what turned out to be one of my favorite Tuscan towns, Lucca. Lucca in the Middle Ages actually rivaled Byzantium and Florence and ranked as Italy's second largest city-state after Venice. It's a town with twin pedigrees holding an ancient Etruscan lineage that later folded into the Roman Empire. So our lodgings honored the Roman side. This is where we stayed. We went up a very steep hill and found this gorgeous Campo Romano. The accommodations were thrilling. The landscape was dotted with 1,000 olive trees and an Olympic-sized pool. We chose to spend some quiet time poolside, and I met a most accommodating older gentleman there who allowed me to practice my still toddler-esque Italian on him. Well, I later learned that he was the count who owned the property. The sign on the ochre-stuccoed main house announces that this is a home for a descendant of the Medici, in this case, his wife, the Countess. So we had come to the Campo Romano for a Saturday night cooking class with a Signora Sandra, who had been living in New York for several years, and she did these cooking classes for English-speaking people. So around 5 in the afternoon, about a dozen of us gathered in the kitchen, and we started producing these large quantities of dough from which we made these small pizzas with 3 different toppings. With the leftover dough, we made biscotti. We then marched our small pizzas out to an outside oven, and there in front of us, there was an old man sitting on a stone wall, and he had a laurel switch in his hand. And when he saw us coming, he arose, and with his laurel switch, he deftly swept the ashes from the pizza oven. Then with a bow, he invited our pizzas in. So a few minutes later, we got to bear our dozens of hot pizzas back to a long table in a beautiful dining room. And over the course of several hours, we nibbled pizzas, we drank wine, and we told life stories. And it was just a quintessentially Italian moment. So the next morning, we headed west, and in about 15 minutes, we had arrived at the seaside. We rented a cabana and rested on the sublime views of the Ligurian Sea. And then at lunchtime, we went into the town of Lucca, and we had lunch in a pub visited frequently by one of my favorite composers, Giacomo Puccini. After that, we headed for the wall. One of the great visitors sites in Lucca is the Roman Wall. It was boulevard wide, and it encircles the entire town. And it is a favorite place for pedestrians and bicyclists. And we joined everybody in making the Great Circle. The Italians have a great sense of humor, and it was in evidence in one of the street signs that we passed as we were back in town. The sign read, "Via Malcontenti." I was amused by that. So on another trip, I was traveling with friends we were coming out of Lake Maggiore, and we had driven to Volterra. We had a very long drive up a very steep mountain. In fact, I have a tendency to car sickness. I had to have the driver pull over and trade seats so that I could drive the rest of the way up. When we got to the top, I was surprised that it was a very flat top. This is Volterra. It is probably the mother of the Etruscan culture. Its lineage dates back to at least the 8th century BCE. And they are very proud of that. And you can tell it because the shops are all full of pottery called bucchero. And it is a pottery that's distinguished by its black fabric, and it has a glossy black surface, but it is modeled after the ancient Etruscan ware. It was quite beautiful. So from Volterra, we slipped around the mountains and came across another wonderful town called San Gimignano, probably most famous for its beautiful sights in the mountains, and then of course for its towers. So I have a story to tell you about those towers. The little town once had a different name, but in the 400s, it was attacked by followers of Attila the Hun, and the local bishop went out to meet them and intervened and saved the town, so they named it after him. Well, conflict continued because, just like out of scene out of Romeo and Juliet, the peace of the town was disturbed for the next 2 centuries by conflicts between the Guelphs and the Ghibellines. So the Ghibellines favored the Holy Roman Empire, and the Guelphs' loyalty lay with the papacy. And you're saying, why am I telling you this? Because the family rivalries resulted in competing families building tower houses of increasingly greater heights. One of them even got to 230 feet tall. By the end of the medieval period, there were 72 tower houses. And then the social wars ended in 1348 when the Black Death struck. And like Sleeping Beauty, at least in looks, San Gimignano has remained a medieval town, a quality shared by many of these Tuscan hill towns. So from San Gimignano, I'm going to take you to my very favorite Tuscan town, Siena.
Siena.
This is one of the back streets of Siena. I'll tell you how we got there. Our friends and my husband and I were driving in a terrible, terrible rainstorm. And we had to drive up yet another mountain, of course. And you could just see mudslides happening along the sides of the road as we careened up. And when we got to the top, it's a pedestrian-friendly town. It has 12 gates. And if you find one of the gates, your car can find a parking lot close to the edge, but you can't drive into the town. And so we had lodgings at a place called the Hotel Ravizza, and it is ravishing. It was wonderful. So we parked the car, we checked into the hotel, sopping wet. We found a library that was also a provisioner of drinks. And so we settled in for a very nice late afternoon as we dried off. But at dinner time, the restaurant wasn't open that evening. And so we had to go back out into the rain. But just a short block down from the hotel was a little restaurant called La Nonna, the grandma. And inside it was absolutely charming decor. And it introduced me to what would become one of my favorite Italian dishes, pici, P-I-C-I. You can only find it in Tuscany, not even in Florence, but in the hill towns. And pici is like a spaghetti, but it's a little denser. The color is a little more rustic. And the dish was served with wild boar sauce atop it. So we had a delightful dinner. Okay, so then the next morning came, the sun was out, and it was time to see the town. And this is kind of the way the streets in Siena look. They're small, winding, irregular. They flow into small squares, and then you have to reroute yourself somewhere. And so we're wandering around trying to find our bearings when suddenly the amazing space happened. We came upon the campo, which is Italian for field. But this was at the time the largest public space in all Italy. And it has a lot of history to it. So you can see that it's kind of a curved space. You may notice that the ground is slanted, and that was for a reason. Siena had a group of famous Sienese engineers, and they decided to build this campo with a sloping floor so that the water would flow downhill in a funnel and be collected, the water would be collected in cisterns. So that's one of the famous features of this campo. It also serves in good weather as a kind of beach without sand. The people bring their towels out and just lie down along the middle there. On the edges, lots of buildings, some apartments, and the space adjoining the buildings is full of open air restaurants. So you can have a wonderful time just people gazing because everybody's in motion around this wonderful space. The back of it is the Palazzo Pubblico, and this was the medieval home of government. And inside they have some beautiful frescoes. This is the allegory of good and bad government. And it was a depiction of secular and religious life because the Sienese liked the balance between the two. Of course, you've noticed that there's a very tall tower here. This is the Torre del Mangia. They built that in the 14th century, and it became for many years the tallest structure in all of Italy. So what to do when you are in Siena? Well, you have to go to the cathedral. This is a beautiful medieval cathedral. Its colors are black and white, the colors of the town. And inside, those colors are caught again in these beautiful pillars, and also in what is described as one of the most beautiful floors anywhere. It's a striking mosaic done in black and white. The cathedral is also full of art. You can find statues and frescoes by people like Donatello, Ghiberti, Bernini. One room is the Piccolomini Library, and it is a stunner full of these gorgeous tapestries and illuminated choir books. I thought it was sensational. So that was our cathedral tour. But what else does one do in Siena? Well, when we had gone to the Campo, we had lunch there, and afterwards we walked up a side street and met our first Italian gelato, which was fabulous. And then we needed to find some money, and there was a local bank there. And the bank is called the Monte dei Paschi. And this is the interesting fact about that. They are the oldest bank in the world. In the medieval times, a group of entrepreneurial Sienese said to their friends, you know, there's a little mountain behind here, and we've got a vault that we could put your money in and keep it safe. And so the people gave them their money, and that's how the bank began. So after we'd gotten our money, it was time to go shopping, and we hit the Banchi di Sopra, which is Siena's most famous shopping street. It has beautiful wares, geometric patterns, leather goods, fashions that are of the moment. It's very elegant. It's something like you'd see in Paris or in Zurich. And what happens in the evening is especially nice. They have at 6 o'clock every day a passeggiata. That is basically a stroll where everybody turns out and they form two lines and they begin to walk. And so in that way, they get to say hello to everybody that they pass. And I think it's a charming idea that we really should take up in this country. All right, so the Campo is famous for lots of things, those things that I had just mentioned, but it is also a racetrack in the summer. They've been doing this since the 1500s, and they added a second race. So one happens in July and one happens in August. And the Palio is akin to Washington's love of football or Europe's love of soccer. They don't matter in Siena. The Palio is the thing. They talk about it all year long, and they have a very convoluted way of deciding which districts, because there's more districts than can compete. They only allow 10 of the districts to compete at any given time. And then the horses get traded and retraded, and then the jockeys get traded and retraded. And on the day of the Palio, the horses are let into their district's churches to get a blessing. And then the fun starts. So I will tell you that I was there during a certain sojourn. Well, I'll tell you why I was there. So back in maybe 2007 or so, I was given a sabbatical by the chamber, a 1-month sabbatical. And I wanted to spend it in Tuscany. I wanted to go to Italian language school, and Siena had one called the Leonardo da Vinci Scuola. And so I was a student there, and I will retrace some of those stories in a little bit. But for the Palio, there was a man in my class named Paul, and he and his wife and I went to dinner one night. And the Palio, when the winning district claims its title, they have a big block party. It's like a mile-long stretch of table. And the one that won that year, called Lucca, the goose, had not won in 43 years because another contrada district had placed a curse on them. And so after 43 years, it was party time. But the weather was not good. It kept raining. And so they had to keep postponing the party, which meant that by the time I got to Siena, it was September and the party was going to happen. So that evening, Paul and his wife and I had dinner in an area behind the Torre de Mangia. And on one side of it, it was like a cliff. It was a very high hill with stepping stones that you could reach to the top. And so after dinner, we began to climb because the party was happening up on the hillside. And the climb seemed to take forever, but once we got up there, it was traveling back 400 years. They were repeating the things that had happened back then. The men were wearing togas. The women were in long dresses, many of it Renaissance style. Every little square had a group of musicians playing, and the tables were filled with food and drink, and everybody was partying, and it was just a magical experience. So if you're ever in Italy in the summertime and near Siena, I recommend the Palio. So the reason that I was in Siena at that time was that I was in school, and the school had arrangements for extracurricular activities. We studied in the morning, but at least once a week, they offered an opportunity to take a trip somewhere. And we would be driven by the guide. And on this day, we were going into the Val d'Orcia. So we started with a visit to a very smart enclave, just a beautiful little place. And then we began to walk, and we walked and walked. And we were walking across fields of these beautiful sunflowers, girasole in Italian. Well, the problem that day was that I had a bad cold. And we were supposed to wind up in the town Pienza, which was what do you think, another hill town. And so there was a hill to climb. And I was beginning to lag behind the others. And I knew I was sick because I'm a fast walker. So by this time I was alone, and I was really having trouble breathing. And I said to myself, I don't think I can do this. I have to figure out something else. So I thought, okay, I'm going to stick out my thumb and see if I can hitchhike my way to the top. And a Mercedes came along and stopped and graciously offered me that ride. So I got to the top and I got to wave to my guide, who was looking stunned to see me coming out of a Mercedes. But Pienza is quite a special place. this is the Val d'Orcia, the countryside I was walking through. Isn't that stunning? So another view, it's just, this is why people love Tuscany. So here's the story of Pienza. Pienza was a little town that this man, Piccolomini, remember him from the library? Well, he became Pope Pius II. And so he decided that he wanted to recreate this little town. He was going to rebuild it as an ideal Renaissance town. And he named it after himself because Pienza means city of pious. So it was his personal retreat, and you can see the bishop's palace that he built for himself there. But this whole city represents the first application of humanist urban planning concepts. It created an impetus for planning that was adopted in some of the other Italian towns, and then it spread across Europe. So it was fun to see what a Renaissance town looked like. You can see it's very different from the looks that we had in Siena and Lucca, but it's beautiful. And they had great ice cream. So now we're going to take a quick tour through some of the other hill towns. Arezzo, we did on another afternoon. This one, just a few students and I decided to go off. It's at the other side, it's the eastern side of Tuscany. Again, it's just marked by a very grand piazza. And the cathedral there is famous for some frescoes by Della Francesca. And this is one of those. This is the history of the true cross. Beautifully done. Rivals the things that you see in Assisi. Okay, wine and art are two of the best loved things about Tuscany, along with the view. So I'm going to take you on a wine tour now. And we're going to start in Montalcino. So Montalcino, geographically speaking, was sort of the little sister to Siena until they both came under the rule of the Medici. And these days, Montalcino has found equal footing with Siena on the world stage because of its wine. So the number of producers of wine has grown from the 1960s when they had about 11, and today they have more than 200 wine growers. And they produce some 330,000 cases of the Brunello wine annually. The Brunello is a clone of the Sangiovese grape, and Brunello was the first wine in Italy to receive an international designation. One of my favorite wine towns is Montepulciano. There's Montalcino. Here's Montepulciano. I spent an afternoon there with some of the students at the school. They let us loose to have a series of wine tastings, and we ran around the town and duly did our wine tasting. And we all agreed that the wine, the Vino Nobile, which is another wine made from the Sangiovese grape, was terrific. And the best one was the 2001. So if you're ever shopping for a really great wine, try something with Vino Nobile 2001. It was amazing. Something interesting about Montepulciano, they have, it's actually renowned as a town for its pork, its cheese, its peachy, lentils, and honey, and of course for its wine. So they have an event called the Bravio delle Botti, which is the Bravio of the barrels. It's an annual race that was begun in 1974, replacing a horse race. So teams of 2 runners representing the 8 districts of the town compete to be the first to roll an 80-kilogram wine barrel through the streets of the historic center to the finish on the Piazza Grande, the cathedral square. Well, the total distance is approximately a mile, and most of it is uphill. And the streets are narrow, and the barrels are cumbersome, and so the collisions are frequent. All right, we're going to next go into one of the truly stunning geographical spots in Tuscany. We're going to, oh, there's a beautiful little ristorante, very typical of what we dined in when we were in Montepulciano and other towns. But we're going to Chianti. So Chianti loves to say its name. So the towns, the little towns, are called Greve in Chianti, Rada in Chianti, Castellina in Chianti, and Gaiole in Chianti. In Gaiole in Chianti, each year in March, there's a professional bike race known as the Strada Bianche, and it references the white gravel roads of the Siena region. Chianti is hill country, full of olive trees, noble cypress trees, vineyards. Cosimo III de' Medici, the Grand Duke of Tuscany, decided in 1716 to issue an edict in which he officially recognized the boundaries of the Chianti district, which was the first legal document in the world to define a wine production area. So in 1932, the wine designation specified the production limits for Chianti Classico, which is a DOCG, Denominazione di Origine Controllata e Garantita, governed by the Italian regulations. So we were in Chianti one time, my husband and I, and you know that I loved that Hotel Ravizza in Siena, but we decided to try something different. We went to a little hamlet called San Leonino, and there was the Hotel Belvedere, and its views looked just like this. It had a very beautiful hotel with rooms that had the ancient, large, dark furniture that we associate with medieval and Renaissance Europe. And it had right to its side a wonderful stone restaurant that had excellent meals. The rooftops were filled with little sparrows chirping, and in the morning you could carry your coffee out to chaises that you could sink into, and this was the view in front of you. It was idyllic. The garden behind the restaurant had a hedge 4 feet high made of rosemary. It was quite a wonderful place to be, very peaceful. And so we delayed our getting out into the countryside until the afternoon, but we did have things to do. So we wanted to go to a winery, and the man on duty gave us a wonderful tour through the caves. And when we came back to the lobby area, I decided to tell him about something that I had found. And I said, you know, there is a wonderful book that you should maybe read, and you could even carry it. It's called Too Much Tuscan Sun. It was by a man named Dario Castagna, who claims to be the first tour guide of Tuscany. He lives very close to where we were at this winery. And I said, yeah, there's Too Much Tuscan Sun. You really should get it. And he said, yeah, just look over there. And I turned around, and he had a whole shelf full of just Too Much Tuscan Sun, but it was in Polish and German, and Italian and Arabic. And Dario was a frequent customer to his winery. So I gave him my card and I said, give him this, tell him I'm a fan, and if he ever is in DC, he should get in touch with me. So to end that story, when I came back home, I checked my email and I had a message from Dario Castagna. He said he goes to the Cosmos Club frequently, but he's yet to call me for an evening out.
That's a great
So,
book.
so after the winery, we headed for a farm where we were going to have another cooking class. This is where my story will end, but it was a wonderful cooking class. It was owned by a veterinarian who had turned a gentleman farmer. And so we gathered in the kitchen, and Marshall was the star of the event because he knew how to do everything. he likes to cook. But we made our own tagliatelle, which the dish then included these roasted peppers and meatballs. We had a salad. We made fresh mozzarella. We had a wonderful dinner, laid out, one long table for the cooking class, and apparently they invited their neighbors, and so there was a second long table, but that was fine. And then in between the entree and the dessert, our host took us across to a barn where he hobbies in vinegars. And we got to see that he had some balsamic vinegars that were up to 30 years in age. It was a tour unlike anything. I'd never toured a vinegar establishment before. Anyway, we came back to our dessert, and you know what dessert was? It was little plain vanilla ice cream topped by balsamic vinegar. And it was just fabulous. The vinegar was so sweet. It was the perfect accompaniment to a perfect little dessert, and the whole represented a perfect ending to a wonderful day in Tuscany. So the only other thing to tell you about Tuscany is that we also, on a visit when Pat and I and friends of ours were out together, we went to the Bagni Vignoni. Spas and baths are popular in Tuscany. There's a lot around Lucca to the north, and this one is in the south. It's very well known, and if you're looking for a spa experience, I do recommend Bagni Vignoni. And with that, I will stop sharing and return us to discussion.
We have one comment from Ileana, who says she wanted to go to pizza, but the underground was, what did she say? The Ileana, are you there? Steve's going to open it up to the rest of you to give us your experiences. And she said she missed the pizza because of subway strike. What a shame.
Steve, they don't really eat a lot of pizza in Tuscany. The food is very fresh vegetables, fresh cheeses.
Great.
Simple but delicious.
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do before we open it up to the party where we bring everybody over, and you can turn on your cameras if you'd like. Let's play the video for the Mather, because I think I got it right now. And then we'll bring everybody over. So here we go. Whoops, hold on.
Good, yeah. And
yeah, but hold on, I know I got it here.
And you put darling Rachel's phone number in chat so people could call her up.
Okay, so.
The Mather feels so fortunate to be able to celebrate the excitement that travel brings. The Mather is a forward-thinking life plan community being developed in Tysons for those 62 and better. The Mather is projected to open in 2023, and we are currently taking reservations. We believe that good food, good friends, and adventures are essential components to live well and age well. And we are honored to be able to support the fabulous discussions that Pat and Eileen bring us each month. Enjoy.
Thank you, Rachel.
So, okay, well, that was great. Glad that we were able to get that on. And now I'm just gonna move everybody over so that if you'd like, you can turn on your cameras and mics, and then we can hear a little
Carolyn,
where everybody has traveled to.
Ian, hello. Hello, Dave and
Yeah, they're all coming over.
you, Daves. Okay. Hey, Carolyn, we look forward to talking with you. And Donna,
I see Anoop. Hello, Anoop.
Harold, Elizabeth,
Hi.
hello. Janet,
So I'm so excited to have done Tuscany today because it is I think it's the most beautiful place on earth. It is my favorite of all the places I've been. And just talking about it makes me want to be back there. I can't wait to get back to Italy, and hopefully things will open up soon to allow that. But I want to hear your stories because they will embed themselves in my memories about a place I love.
who has an experience to share with us. We love hearing them. We want to, if you have a favorite hotel or a favorite restaurant or a favorite wine that you remember, we'll invite you to put it in chat and to tell us about it. Marshall's online too. Hi, Marshall and Diane and Patricia and Raina.
Oh, and I see Beth. Hi, Beth. Is Parker with you?
That's me.
Okay, if feel free to unmute yourself and
Start video. I know. What about this?
Here's Mary. I think Jeff is hiding. I see his shadow. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you guys been to Tuscany?
No. No.
so who has been to Tuscany?
Me.
Raise your hand. Oh, okay. Shaheen, do you have anything to share?
It's been such a long time. We went in a large group. Rosvita, who's in this group, Rosvita's husband, and we all sat down, and the men organized it. So it was fun.
Here we are.
Yeah, we were
Had a great time.
To take my hair out.
long time ago.
We have been to Tuscany, Richard and I. We visited some friends in Montepulciano and just loved it, loved it. We had lots of wonderful wine, of course. And actually, what I fell in love with was their olive oil. Well, they had lots of little places you would go around and taste the olive oil, just like you were doing a wine tasting when you're doing olive oil. It was really fun.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, thank you. Anything else you can?
Well, I'm
think
just saying that our friend's an artist.
of? Oh,
And he
right.
was sort of taking an artist sabbatical in Montepulciano, he and his
Right.
family, and they had a beautiful apartment
Oh, right.
overlooking one of those tiny little streets.
Mhm,
It was really very, very nice.
Yeah.
When I was in San Gimignano, there were two artists working in plein air at our hotel. And
Ah,
we struck up a chat with them. They'd been there all summer. And so we invited them to dinner so they could tell us all about the town, and it was a very worthwhile experience.
yeah. Oh, sure. That's fun. Yeah, his name is Greg Mort, and his beautiful painting watercolor. And he's got paintings all over the world, some in Spain and
Well, the National Gallery.
National Gallery of Art. He has his paintings there as well as many other galleries around the world. Yeah.
And does he paint scenes from Italy?
No,
Did
he
he?
paints
No.
mostly still lifes of all sorts,
Okay.
Yeah.
but
Right.
shells, and he
Mhm.
does a lot of astronomical stuff as well.
Yeah, he was also the astronomer, one of the astronomers for one of the shuttles, and Richard's an
Yeah.
astronomer, so they have a friendship going there, which is fun.
That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Richard and Jude Dusterhouse. Hello, where are you?
Hi. You all, Richard and Jude are muted.
I'm sorry, we have to leave now. We have.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Oh, I love your stuff. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Bye.
Oh, well, maybe this-
Something I need to do for this.
Hope to see you next month.
Yes, absolutely.
So do you do this once a month?
Yes, we
Yeah.
do on the third Friday,
Third Fridays.
once a month. And we're
And where
going,
are you guys going next month?
in June, we're going to the Canadian Maritimes. Who's been
Yeah.
to Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island,
Yeah.
Newfoundland, Les Îles de Madeleine? Not too many people have gone there, but we had we've been wonderful tourists and ferry riders, bicyclists and car drivers all around the Maritimes.
Beautiful area.
We have not been to Tuscany, but we loved Florence and the Uffizi.
Yes.
Oh, that was so special.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very different field. See, I should have mentioned this, but Florence and Siena had a war in the 1200s.
Mhm.
Florence won, but Siena resented them. And to this day, there is no train service between the two.
Ah,
And so it's very, very separated cultures. Florence is very Renaissance.
right.
The Tuscan hill towns are very medieval.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Each one's better and more surprising than the next. I
Mhm.
thought Siena was be all end all, and then we went to Montepulciano, and they're just fabulous. So you'll really plan to see as many as you can.
Mhm.
Maybe we should take everybody on a tour.
I think I see some little trips coming for us in our future. We could all go together.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Jude?
Yeah, yeah, we were there. We were in Florence and then also in Tuscany, and attended a wedding at a very private villa near Lucca, very near Lucca, a little tiny town.
Did you get to see Lucca?
Yes,
Yes.
and the wall, and
Yeah.
Puccini, and Puccini's house.
Yeah, yeah. It's wonderful, isn't it? I love Lucca.
We were also in Pisa.
Okay, well, that's part of Tuscany.
Oh, we were there. Oh, okay. All right. But we were very unimpressed with Pisa.
So was I.
Good.
I got out of town quick.
I
to
just,
Lucca.
we couldn't wait to leave and get on. Yeah, it was just kind of, yeah, touristy, right.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a little story about Pisa. It redeemed itself at the end. My last day in Siena was just a horrible, horrible day. It was again raining, and I mentioned there was no train, and I had to get a rental car in order to get myself back to Pisa's airport. And so I took the bus and I had a bad cold. So I took a bus into Florence. I found the rental agency, picked up the car, drove back in the rain. I mentioned that it's pedestrian only. So here I was driving across one of the squares near my apartment, and the policeman stopped me and dragged me. But I had to get to the apartment and load up everything and then head off. So I was completely frazzled by this time. And I had a 2-hour drive to Pisa. And night was coming fast. And I didn't know where I was going to stay. And I passed a little English sign. I think it was Green Hills B&B or something. And I said, okay, English, I think I do English right now. I turned in and I had dinner with a young lady who was Italian, but she was living in Chile. And I couldn't imagine why anybody would leave Italy to go to Chile. But anyway, we staggered through the lunch dinner. And then I went to bed and I slept for 12 hours. And I missed breakfast completely. I think I woke up around 10:30 in the morning. The proprietor gave me some coffee and ordered a lunch out. I sat down outside in a grove and wrote my memoirs. And there was this beautiful lane with an arch of trees that I walked down, and I always remember it. It was just one of the most beautiful little lanes. And it turns out that I now live on a spot with a lane next to me that has that same arch of trees. So every time I go out my door, I can imagine myself back in Pisa.
It's fun.
Yeah.
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 That's a good Pisa story. Yeah.
Did you go to the tower? Did you go up?
No, we got out of there as fast as we could.
Mhm.
There were more interesting things we decided we wanted to see.
Yeah, yeah. Pisa is not the showpiece for Tuscany at all, but the rest of it is, just about everything else is.
Which we missed.
Yeah, so we'll have to get you over there. I'm just saying.
That wonderful town we went to, where Lou was also.
I don't know.
Mm,
I don't know.
So any other stories from Tuscany or any questions about places you'd like to go? Does everybody want to know a favorite place? I mean, you've heard mine, Siena, but
You mean favorite place in Tuscany or favorite place in Europe?
in
Anyway,
Tuscany,
oh,
in Tuscany.
Where were we in Italy?
Pisa and Florence.
Ravenna.
Oh, that's down in the Amalfi Coast. That's way
Yeah.
way down.
Mhm.
But there was that wonderful little town we went to that had a wonderful view. We went to the church there and can't think of the name.
Ooh.
A room with a view. They're all over Tuscany. All right, well,
if you look in the chat, you'll see some hints that we, the name of the book and the name of some wine that Eileen mentioned. Eileen put them, Steve put them in the chat for us. So thank you, Steve, for making.
Yes, thank
happen
you,
once
Steve.
again. We really
Oh,
appreciate you.
and thank all of you for coming. We just love doing these because it gives us a chance to see old friends, make new friends, and dream about places that we have traveled to that are embedded in our memories as
Right.
exceptional places to visit and cultures to remember, and
That's true.
imagining ways that you can live a life in a different way.
Yep.
Thank you for the wonderful storytelling.
Oh, very special.
Thank you very
Can't
much.
wait to see
I
you.
enjoyed your stories.
Great.
See everybody.
All right.
next month.
So
Thank you for your story.
Thank you.